there, welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, hi, my name is Samantha, and this is my channel where I talk all about books. And today we're going to be doing my August wrap-up. So yes, in today's video, we're going to be talking about all of the books that I read in the month of August. I only read 5 books in August, which is not a ton, but I feel like I was a little bit slumpy in August. Like, I definitely didn't finish a book until like probably a week into the month, and that's only because I went and bought a new book and instantly devoured it. But otherwise, I don't know how long it would have taken me to finish a book. But yeah, I was definitely not in a super reading mood. I was, but I just couldn't decide what to read. But yes, I read 5 books in a month. And if you've never watched one of my wrap-ups before, what I typically do is I will first of all go over the stats that I get from Storygraph. Then we're going to go over all of the books that I read and what I rated them. And then finally, I will talk about all of the books, unless I've spoken about them in a different video, which I actually haven't. All of these books are new to the channel. So yes, I will talk about all of the books and I'll rank them from worst to best. That's how we do a wrap-up on this channel. I haven't done one in a while because the last wrap-up I posted, which is actually the last video I posted, was for April, May, June, and July, because it had just been so long since I posted one. So yeah, we're back. I'm a little bit late, but it's fine. I'm also filming this before I start my work day, so I have to be a little bit quick. So if it sounds rushed, that's why. It is rushed. First of all, let's go through all of my stats from in the month. Like I said, I read 5 books, and that was a total of 1,469 pages and about 14 hours of audiobook listening. My average time to finish a book was 8 days. Like I said, I was a little bit of a slump. For my moods, I read mostly lighthearted books. I had 3 lighthearted, 3 emotional, which has always been funny because I'm like, those are like opposites. How are they an equal number? How is a book lighthearted and emotional? But I guess that's possible. 2 funny, 1 reflective, 1 hopeful, and 1 adventurous. And then in terms of the pace, I had 1 slow-paced book and 4 medium-paced books. I typically do go for a medium-paced book. And also in terms of the page length, this is my standard. All of the books I read were between 300 and 499 pages. I normally read books that length, so not surprised. And then for audiobook length, I had 1 quite short audiobook, which was less than 8 hours. And then I had 1 that was between 8 hours and 16 hours, basically. For my fiction, nonfiction split, yet again, 100% fiction. I have not read a single nonfiction book this year, which is shameful. I think my goal was to read 10. I have not finished 1. I've started 3, but I have not finished a single one. So yeah, not great. Oh, actually, I started 4. And 1 I fully DNF'd. The other 3 I will get back to at some point. For my genres, I had 3 romance books, 2 classics, 2 literary, 2 fantasy, and 1 contemporary. And then for my format, I read 2 print books, 2 audiobooks, and 1 digital book. Ebook. For my ratings, I had an average rating of 3.3, which is probably one of my lower ones this year. It was not the best ever reading month, although I feel like I had a really good reading month because I just forget about the 2-star reads. I actually had 2 2-star reads, 1 3.25, 1 4.5, and 1 4.75. So yeah, no 5 stars. Those are the stats. And then we'll just go over all the books I read, what I rated them, and then get into the reviews. So the first book that I finished in the month was Savor It by Tara DeWitt, and I gave this 4.5 stars. Then I read The Emerald Storm, which is book 4 in the Rhyria Revelations by Michael J. Sullivan, and the second book in this bind up, and I gave that 3.25 stars. Then I read Mansfield Park by Jane Austen, and I gave this 2 stars. Then I read Northanger Abbey by Jane Austen, and I gave this 4.75 stars. And finally, I read The Enchanted Greenhouse by Sarah Beth Durst, and I gave this 2 stars. And now on to the ranking. By far the worst book I read in the month was Mansfield Park by Jane Austen. I'm so sorry, Janie. I love you, love your books, but this was not good. First of all, these copies are tiny because they just are, but this is a long book. This book is well over 500 pages, and it had no reason to be that long. It was not good. This basically follows a main character, Fanny Price. Fanny is the daughter of the poor relation of this family. Basically, there were 3 sisters, I think, if I remember correctly, and they each married differently. 2 of them married very well and had become quite wealthy, and then Fanny's mom, whose name I can't remember, but we'll call her Mrs. Price, she married, I don't know who he is, but he doesn't have any money. And so basically, then they had all these kids, and they are just, not suffering, but they're not like part of society or whatever. So Fanny's aunt and uncle Bertram, they decide to take her under their wing and sort of raise her with their own kids so that she can have a better life. But they actually treat her so badly and basically treat her like almost a servant. She's like a companion for her aunt Bertram and basically keeps her company because I think her aunt isn't in the best health. She basically grows up with her cousins, one of whom is Edmund, her first cousin. And he is the only one who's ever like really nice to her. And also this family called the Crawfords come to stay, and basically they have a couple of daughters, so one of them is possible love interest for Edmund, but I don't know, they don't really vibe. But Edmund is still like, I don't know. Fanny's just suffering the whole time because she's in love with her cousin. That's not a very good synopsis, but honestly, that's all that happens, and I did not enjoy it. Fanny as a main character, she was so difficult to read from because she just didn't really have much of a backbone, and then also she was like a wet blanket. Like basically one thing that it was just like the last straw for me in this character was that they wanted to put on a play at their house, and for some reason this is really improper at the time, and so she literally refuses to be part of the play. She's like freaking out, crying because they're putting on a play, and I was like, what? And maybe it's because I don't understand why at this period of time this would be so improper, but I was just like, really? It's a play. It's not going to kill you. I didn't like this book. I did not like Fanny Price, and the fact that they are cousin lovers, it's a bit weird. It's quite weird. I know it's a product of its time, but it's still weird, and I can't really root for that couple. Moving on, the next book to talk about is The Enchanted Greenhouse by Sarah Beth Durst. This is the sequel to The Spell Shop. This basically follows our main character, Turlu, and Turlu was a librarian working in the same library that our main character in The Enchanted Greenhouse worked in, although their time didn't overlap. Essentially, she is the one who created Kaz, the talking spider plant, who's a character in The Spell Shop, and she was very harshly punished for this because that is completely illegal. And she was basically turned into a statue and forced to like live out her days as a wooden statue in the library. However, when the events of the spell shop start going down, she is sent away as a statue and basically wakes up on this island where there's no one around, but there's this big old enchanted greenhouse. And turns out that there is one person around. It's this gardener called Yarrow, and he basically wakes her up and he expects her to be the one who's going to save the greenhouse because he assumes that that's why she's been sent there. And this enchanted greenhouse has fallen into disrepair since the wizard who was in charge of it died and everyone abandoned the land, and so it's just Yarrow and his flying cat who are the only ones left. And it's basically just about Turlu trying to help him out and them slowly growing feelings for each other. It was not very good, unfortunately. I found this one to be so boring. I don't know what it was, but it just could not hold my interest. I actually started this book like a long time ago and ended up like pausing it and then coming back to it and pausing it and coming back to it. Eventually I did switch to audiobook, although I didn't update that on Storygraph, so there should actually be like one more audiobook on there, but that's fine. It was so boring. It was such a struggle to get through, which is such a shame because I loved The Spell Shop. I found that one to be so like magical, not in terms of like the actual magic, but like in terms of the reading experience. Like I just felt sucked in. I loved the characters. I loved the cozy vibe, whereas this one didn't feel the same way. And I think maybe it's because there are less characters. I really enjoy sort of the small town vibe, I guess, of The Spell Shop, whereas in The Enchanted Greenhouse, you only really have like kind of 3 characters, and like slowly you get more characters. No spoilers, but I think just those 2 is like not the best. So I don't know. I also just didn't really feel the connection between Yarrow and Turlu because obviously they have a bit of a romance. So yeah, unfortunately this one was just a bit of a flop for me, so I only gave it 2 stars. I think a lot of people who did love The Spell Shop also loved this. Maybe it wasn't the right time, I don't know, but it's done. It's done now. The next book to talk about is kind of a disappointing one as well, but that is The Emerald Storm by Michael J. Sullivan. Like I said, this is book 4 in the Rhyera Revelation series, and the reason why this one is disappointing is because I loved book 3. It was my favorite one in the series, and also I really enjoyed book 2. Book 1 was a little bit of a dud, like it was a 3-star, and then books 2 and 3 I loved, and I was really excited about the direction that it was going in. But for some reason, this one just felt so boring. Like, I don't know, they were on a ship for a lot of the time. If you don't know, this series follows our main characters, Royce and Hadrian, who are a thief and a mercenary, and they basically get jobs doing crimes, basically, for like nobility and royals, and basically royals trying to screw other royals over. They're the guys you call, and they'll get stuff done and not leave a trace. So yeah, they are the right area. So each book is sort of like a different quest, but there is this overarching plot, which is really, it is definitely ramping up now. Like the plot is plotting. And we also encounter some other characters in the first book who are still popping up in this book, like this princess called Arista. She's also very much a main character, which we love to see. And I love her. But yeah, I also love Rose and Hadrian, but this book was not very interesting. All of the perspectives we had, none of them were like, oh my god, I have to keep reading, like this is so exciting. It just felt like it really, the pace just went way down from the previous book. It was definitely not a filler book because it needed to happen, but it was kind of a journey book. Like characters were kind of separated and they all needed to get back to be in one spot for the plot to continue. So I'm excited to see where this series goes. I have the next 2 books on audio, the last 2 books. I've got them on audio, so I will be reading them hopefully very soon. I'm currently doing the tandem read for Third of Glass, so who knows when. But yeah, once I've finished that, I will get back to the series. But yeah, this one was just, it was still good. Like I said, I gave it 3.25. It was just a little bit disappointing after how amazing book 3 was for me. Still enjoyed it, but ultimately not my favorite. And then I'm going to do something a little bit strange. I'm going to actually talk about the book that I rated higher next, because in terms of enjoyment, Savor It probably takes the cake. So we're just going to talk about Northanger Abbey now, even though I did technically rate this higher. But now I'm like, maybe I should rate this higher because maybe this is a 4.75. Northanger Abbey by Jane Austen is my second favorite Jane Austen book, officially. I could give you my full-on ranking, or maybe I could do like a separate video on that if you're interested. But yeah, this is my second favorite. I loved it. It's also tiny, which is just excellent. And it was a quick read. I actually listened to this on audio, like I did with all of her books. And Emma Thompson does the narration and she did such a good job. And this one is really fun because this is basically Jane Austen's take on a Gothic novel, but it's satire at the same time, because obviously Gothic novels were really popular in this time period, but Janie wasn't writing that. She was writing romance books. And there's a lot of commentary on this about how society viewed books written by women and basically like this sort of novel and just novels in general. Like if you weren't reading nonfiction, like why were you reading? Like it was seen as a waste of time. Anyway, and what's really interesting about this is that Jane Austen is actually like a character within the novel. She's the narrator, and basically it follows our main character, Catherine Morland, who's like really naive and hasn't been out in society yet. So she goes out into society and she's in Bath for a short period of time, and she ends up meeting this family called the Tilneys, and she really connects with the daughter of that family, Eleanor, and basically gets invited to go stay at their father's house, which is Northanger Abbey. And she's really excited because she's really into Gothic novels, and I think a lot of them took place in abbeys, so she's like super excited to get there. And then when she gets there, things are like a little bit off. She's a bit like, this is a bit creepy, but ultimately like it's a Jane Austen novel, so there's romance. It's not scary. There was like a spooky scene, but like I said, it's also satire, so it's not really scary, and it was so fun. I just loved this book, and I was really surprised because I didn't know what to expect, but I had the best time, and I will be rereading this with my eyes at some point. I think this would be a good one for like spooky season because it's like not spooky, but like it's kind of got that atmosphere to it. So yeah, loved this one. And then finally, the last book to talk about is Savor It by Tara DeWitt. Like I said, I gave this 4.5, but I'm gonna up my rating because I feel like these are on par. Very different vibes, but like both books that I think about so fondly. Like I said, this kind of got me out of a bit of a reading slump. I went to a bookstore, I bought this book, and I instantly started reading it on my way home, and that never happens. So that was, first of all, just a fun experience. And I had just a really good feeling about this one. So it basically follows our main character, Sage Bird, and she lives in this small town. She's a teacher, and it's the summer, so she's off for the summer. And essentially lives in this really tiny town. And basically, she was with this man for 5 years. They broke up, and he immediately got with one of her friends, and after a year they're now engaged, and they all still live in this small town, so obviously they run into each other. So she's just feeling like she really needs a win, and every summer there's this competition in their town, and she's like, I want to win. However, she needs a partner, and that's where Fisher comes in. Fisher is a hotshot New York City chef. He literally works at a Michelin star restaurant, but he's kind of lost his spark with cooking. He's just really burnt out, and he's also going through a lot because his sister died a few years ago, and he now has custody of his niece, and so he ends up having an opportunity to open up a new restaurant in the small town where Sage lives. So he kind of has that as like kind of personal challenge and also a bit of a reset with his career to kind of get re-inspired with cooking. So he comes to the small town for the summer to set up this restaurant, and he happens to be staying in the house next door to Sage's, and so their paths cross, and basically they end up fake dating so that sort of the women in the town leave him alone, but also so that they can compete in this competition and hopefully win. And it was just so sweet, and I just loved this so much. Sometimes love a small town story. They don't always work for me, but I feel like generally speaking, I love a small town vibe. And I think it's because that's what I want, because I've lived in a city for quite a while and I grew up on an island. Like, you don't get much smaller than that. But I grew up on an island, then I moved to a city, lived there for 8 years, and now I've moved out of the city, luckily. And I just want a small town vibe where kind of everyone knows everyone, like, and it's just safe and wholesome, and I just love that vibe so much. And I think because I was really like wanting that for my life when I read this book, it just made me connect with it even more. So yeah, I don't know, I just loved it. I loved it so much. It was so fun. It does have like some more difficult themes like loss, obviously, and grief. I think ultimately like it was romantic. I laughed out loud at some points, and I liked seeing how the characters grew separately and also together. So yeah, I would highly recommend this, and there is a sequel which I will be picking up very soon as I can get my hands on it. But yeah, that's it. Those are the books I read, and I'm running out of time. I gotta log on to work in 8 minutes. So these were all of the books that I read in the month of August, apart from The Enchanted Greenhouse, which I don't own physically. These are all the books I read. Please let me know what books you read down below. I would love to know. If you have any recommendations for me, please give me the recommendations. I would love to hear them. Yeah, that's all that I have. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you liked it. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. If you're new here, feel free to subscribe down below. And if you made it all the way to the end of this video, leave me a little ghost emoji for Northanger Abbey, even though there weren't any ghosts in that, but leave me a ghost down below. Yeah, that's all I have. So I'll see you very soon with another video. Bye.